Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Everything Entertainment Show. We are a few days delayed. Unfortunately, I was a little bit sick and coughing a lot, and I just didn't want that on the podcast. But we are good. We are here, and I am glad that you're all here and listening in. So let's get started, as we always do, with talking about last weekend's box office. So when I was looking up initial projections, Dune 2 was expected to repeat. But Kung Fu Panda 4 way overperformed. Now, when I was first looking up stuff last week, they were saying that Kung Fu Panda 4 was going to make about 45 million. And then on Friday, when the Thursday numbers and then Friday numbers started rolling in, I saw that elevate to 55 million. Well, come Sunday, Kung Fu Panda 4 beat even those projections and made $58.0 million. And that is incredible because Kung Fu Panda is a franchise that I think a lot of people considered was on its way out. A lot of people did not think was going to be doing very well. But you know what? Kids love it, and it's a big franchise. Jack Black has probably never been bigger, especially coming off of playing Bowser last year. So I think that, it doesn't surprise me. Now we'll have to see what the second weekend is. And there's nothing really huge releasing this weekend, especially on the kids' side. So that's a thing to look at. Now, Dune Part 2 also overperformed expectations because it made $46.2 million, which is something like a 44% drop. And you remember last week I said I'm interested in seeing what the second weekend is for this because I thought there might be a bigger than usual drop-off. Nope. It is holding on in there, which means that despite some of the stuff that I thought was going to be tough and people weren't going to like, people are liking it. And it's got like a huge ratings. Everyone's loving it. I gave it like a 4.5 out of 5. And I've had people telling me that I was too harsh on it. So, again, I'm glad everybody's loving it. It's going to be huge. Let me go ahead and click on Dune Part 2. Let's see where it's at total. Yeah, it's at 384 million worldwide. So, it doesn't seem like it's going to hit that $1 billion mark, but if it just keeps going, and I don't think Ghostbusters is going to do great. I have not been hearing fantastic things. I haven't been hearing a lot of excitement. Ghostbusters might slow it down a little bit. I think the weekend after that, it's going to go through April pretty, why is it? Yeah. Boy in the Heron is re-releasing. Yeah, Immaculate isn't going to do amazing. Sleeping Dogs is not going to do amazing. Winnie the Pooh is not going to make a ton of money. So yeah, Dune Part 2. Oh, Godzilla vs. Kong. That might be the first real thing that stands in Dune's way of getting to $1 billion. And I'm not saying, because I'm not expecting Godzilla vs. Kong to be like a good movie, let alone a great movie. But, especially coming off of Godzilla Minus One, I think one of the worst things for that Legendary thing is that because of Godzilla Minus One, Oscar-winning Godzilla Minus One, by the way, our expectations are a lot higher for these monster movies, and I think that might stand in its way. So I think at least for that one weekend, you're going to see Dune suffer a bit. And then after that, I mean, there's really nothing giant in April that I could think of, so it might be, Dune 2 might actually have its way until all the way until May. And then you're going to get into Fall Guy and some of these bigger releases. So let's go on. Let's talk about what I want to talk about next, which is the Oscars reaction. So the Oscars were on Sunday, and I have to say, probably one of the best shows I had seen in years, because one of the things I had said is that the Oscars had really become, and I'd heard this before, but the last couple years, you could really tell. Now, I understand last year, they were really trying to play it safe because of the whole Will Smith situation. But even before that, even before Will Smith did his slap and all that chaos, you could tell that the Oscars were kind of falling into this, look how great we are, and this very self-important, self-congratulatory, we have to be proper and we have to show that we're better than everybody else kind of a show. And this was a year that you can tell that Jimmy Kimmel and all of them, they literally just unleashed and had fun with it. And that's the way to do the Oscars. Yes, there was the pomp and circumstance of the winners of the awards, but like the John Mulaney bit was amazing. The John Cena bit laughed my ass off. Several of the speeches were great. Honestly, and I thought I don't want to get into the politics at all, but I thought everything that was going on in the world, I honestly thought that this Oscars were going to be a lot more political than we're used to seeing even. And you know, awards bodies, they tend to be political because that's what the actors and the directors and all them choose to use their platforms for. But that being said, I was expecting it to be political, and I could think of, maybe 3-4 references to stuff that was going on in the political arena. So that did shock me. But overall, just fantastic show. I do think that they probably still needed to cut it down by like 30 minutes, if not like 45 to an hour. But that's neither here nor there. I think there are ways they could have tightened up that show. But other than that, and I know I'm in the minority because everybody else loved it. My biggest complaint is the having 5 legacy actors all giving the acting awards. And they all gave like a 90-second speech. And I know everyone else loved it. But for me, I was like, I could feel the entire show like grounding to a halt. I think the concept is great. I just think they need to tighten that up a bit and maybe not go into as much detail. But we will... And also, I wanted to say that, you know, everything was predictable this year as far as the winners go. Before we get into, like, the individual categories. Because we're going to go category by category. Except for the ones that I didn't see any of, like the documentaries. Is that, yeah, it was very predictable. There was one that I was surprised by. But other than that, everything was pretty much in line with what we've been seeing all awards season. So that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into the winners. So, actor in a leading role right here, Cillian Murphy won for Oppenheimer. No surprise there. I mean, there's a small chance that Paul Giamatti was going to take it. But Cillian Murphy has been, and again, this is, and I hate doing this because that's a thing that I hate about award season. But one of the discussions that comes up every year is whose turn is it? And I hate that because it should be a merit-based system. It should be who had the best performance. But like I saw when people were bringing up Paul Giamatti's name, they were like, Paul Giamatti already has an Oscar, so Cillian should get it by default. It's kind of like another name we're going to talk about here pretty soon. But and that's nothing against Cillian Murphy, because Cillian Murphy was amazing in Oppenheimer, and he was wonderful. And I'm glad to see him there holding that statue. Actor in a supporting role, again, no surprise. This is probably another legacy award, but it's also the most deserving Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, because I watched it with a friend about a week ago, and she turned with me like 2/3 of the way. She's like, yeah, you know that guy that kind of sounds like Robert Downey Jr.? That's when you know it's a good acting performance, when they can't even tell that it's Robert Downey Jr. So again, I thought there was a teeny tiny chance that Mark Ruffalo could have pulled off an upset there for Poor Things. I almost said Stranger Things. Whoops. But because it is Mark Ruffalo's best acting performance as well. Like, Emma Stone gets all the praise in the world for it, which she should. She absolutely should. But I don't think Mark Ruffalo is getting enough praise, because that is also the best acting performance he's ever put in. But again, congratulations to Robert Downey Jr. Actress in a leading role. Now, this is the one, if you remember last week, I said could have gone to anybody. Because Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone were going neck and neck all award season. And then at like the last couple weeks, I started hearing all this talk and all this interest about Sandra Hüller. And like, there was actually legitimate people posting about like, she's, from what I'm hearing internally, she's been getting a lot of votes. So, but it ended up going to Emma Stone, which, as much as my dance card was on Lily Gladstone, like, that's who I was rooting to win, I have no problem with Emma Stone winning, because the things that Emma Stone had to do in that movie are above and beyond. So yeah, actress in a supporting role, Divine Joy Randolph. Again, that probably was the heart of the holdovers, and especially with the controversy about plagiarism and stuff. So we can't really talk about the screenplay, but that performance that she gives in that movie is like the heart of that movie. It is like the brilliant moments of that. I love that performance. But I don't think enough people are talking about how good Daniel Brooks was in The Color Purple. Like, I remember walking out of that movie going like, oh, you want to see a how to act masterclass. That is another performance to watch. All right, moving on to animated feature. Now, this is the one, and as soon as they announced it, I said, Twitter is about to blow up. Social media is about to blow up with a bunch of angry Spider-Man fans, because The Boy and the Heron won, which I kind of still thought Spider-Man was going to win. But again, if you remember last week, I was saying Boy and the Heron has kind of been sweeping all award season, and sure enough, it took. Now, again, I don't like talking about legacy, but I think this is a case of maybe this is a contributing factor, because this is supposedly Miyazaki's final film. It's like his third final film. And this is probably them going, we might not give another chance to give Miyazaki another Oscar. So, and on top of that, The Boy and the Heron is it is a wonderful film. Personally, I did enjoy Across the Spider-Verse a little bit more than Boy and the Heron. But that's just me. And clearly the voters decided that they liked Boy and the Heron more. And the other ones were in the very much honor to be nominated category. Cinematography, Oppenheimer, again, boom, no surprise there. I don't think anybody was expecting anything different. Costume design, Poor Things. Yeah, especially the way that they did Emma Stone's dresses and her costumes, and the way that they built that world through the costuming was wonderful. I have no complaints about that winning. Directing, Christopher Nolan. 8 nominations. He finally has a statue. You could kind of call that in, but honestly, like, as much as I liked Anatomy of Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon was my favorite movie of the year. I thought there was a chance that Yorgos was going to take it for Poor Things, but still, like, in terms of just plain directing, yes, Oppenheimer was definitely a well-deserved win there for directing. Okay. Editing, Oppenheimer. Again, I thought there was a chance this was going to go to Poor Things, but Oppenheimer, for being 3 hours long, and it can keep your interest for that long, it is 2 things. It is script and it is editing. And definitely deserve that statue. Zone of Interest winning for International Feature Film. Again, I saw a few people confused. Here's the thing. And I understand Perfect Days is great. But Zone of Interest is the only one in the International Feature Film category that was also nominated in Best Picture. So I was like, well, that automatically gives it to it unless there's something really weird going on. Something really weird, like something I always call out. And some of y'all might remember this a few years ago. I think it's 2017. Remember at SAG, at the SAG Awards, we're not talking about the Oscars right now. Remember when Emily Blunt was nominated for, not just nominated, she won the Best Supporting Actress for A Quiet Place. And I was like, oh, wonderful. She didn't even get a nomination for the Oscar. She won the SAG Award, and SAG is the one that votes, and they didn't even nominate her for the Oscar. I will never understand that. That's one of those things that always stand out to me. Okay, makeup and hairstyling, Poor Things, again, 100% agreed. 100% agreed. It's because Poor Things just had some wonderful makeup, and how they did all of that with Emma Stone. Score, Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer. Now, there's the thing I wanted to, because I saw a bunch of people getting their stuff in a knot because Ludwig Göransson said that thanks to my parents for giving me musical instruments instead of video games. And I saw a bunch of people really upset. Now, as a lifelong gamer, that did not bother me, because guess what? Yes, let your kids play games. Let them explore those other worlds. Let them create new stories in their heads and experience those stories. But guess what? They need to have hobbies as well. they need to have something that they are productive at. Not just in front of the TV watching TV or playing video games. They want to be a creator and not just a consumer. But that is just my take. Original song, What Was I Made For? Again, the Barbie song that swept everything. Personally, I think I liked I'm Just Ken a little bit better. But Billie Eilish, for being, what did they say, 22, and she's already got 2 Oscars, that is, I'm not going to lie, that's pretty impressive already. And then production design, Poor Things. Again, the way that they did those sets and that work, absolutely phenomenal. I have no complaints. Like Oppenheimer, they, historically, they love those period pieces. But Poor Things kind of worked as like this fantastical version of a period piece. So, and I know some people are upset about Barbie, and I understand that because of the way they like completely built Barbie Land from the ground up. But other than just painting everything pink, I didn't really see anything special with that Barbie production design. And definitely not as creative, even though it was very creative. Definitely not as creative as what they did with Poor Things. Sound, Zone of Interest, because it's a silent film. Visual effects, Godzilla -1. I was hoping, I honestly thought it was going to go to the creator. Actually still not seen Napoleon, but like Guardians of the Galaxy could have taken it, I guess. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which I'm the only one I know that actually liked it, could have taken it for some of the stuff that they did with blue screen and all that. The creator, which was I think the biggest one that a lot of people were expecting to win. But I'll tell you, Godzilla... Now, I saw a couple of places online, a popular creator, and I'm not going to name his name, you'll probably know who I'm talking about, who basically said, like, Godzilla -1 didn't deserve it because the only reason why the visual effects are good is because of what they did with that budget. Yeah, that's the point. The fact that they were able to do that good of a job with those Godzilla effects and how he's always moving and still able to look that good on that small of a budget, absolutely we should be giving it awards for that. Absolutely. Adapted screenplay, American Fiction. Now this one did surprise me because it upset Oppenheimer. American Fiction is one of the ones I missed. And I need to see it. I need to figure out where I can stream it at, because I am going to watch it probably within the next couple weeks. So I don't have any opinion of it, but from everything I've heard, it's wonderful. From everything I've heard, it's great. Original screenplay, Anatomy of a Fall, which is wonderful. And it's great that like foreign movies are getting recognized in screenwriting and all that now. So I have no problem with that winning. And then finally, Best Picture, Oppenheimer, the best movie of the year, according to the Academy. Again, Oppenheimer, I'm trying to think of where it was now off the top of my head. Oppenheimer was like 6th for me. It was like, but it was very high up in my top of the year. But yeah, like I thought Spider-Man was better than Oppenheimer. I thought that Killers of the Flower Moon was better. I thought a very, very underrated movie with Dumb Money was better than Oppenheimer. But still, did it deserve Best Picture? I'd say it was good enough to deserve a Best Picture. So I have no complaints about it there. All right. So now that the Oscars are over, we start moving on to the future. So we're going to move on to the movie and TV beat. So first things first, Rogue Squadron is back on. Now, if y'all remember, Disney did this, what did they call it? An Investor Day a few years ago where they announced all these projects. And we have yet to see like half of them. And especially with Star Wars, they were like, we're going to do a Lando show, and we're going to do this movie, and this movie, and this movie, and this new show, and this. And Lucasfilm, through various problematic reasons, all of that has gone away. Like, the only ones who have been able to get stuff off the ground is Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, which is why I have said, why do you think they're having Jon Favreau direct the Mandalorian movie coming up next? But Patty Jenkins was recently on a podcast where she basically said, hey, I left Rogue Squadron to do Wonder Woman 3. Wonder Woman 3 is no longer happening, so I got back in touch with Lucasfilm, And I am currently now writing a draft of the Rogue Squadron script. So, while that is minor, and by the way, that is no guarantee that this movie is still going to happen. Like, I think it was last year that it was pretty much confirmed to be canceled. But what was I trying to say? It is no guarantee that it's going to happen, but it is a step in the right direction. It is letting us know that it's happening at least. She's at least got a script. So hopefully whatever is going on at Lucasfilm is fixed. Or at least in the process of being fixed. I mean, there were like rumors that Kathleen Kennedy was going to leave, and then those rumors kind of went away. And then, you know, this movie gets announced and it doesn't do anything. And then this movie gets announced and it doesn't go anywhere. But we've heard like there are scripts out there. That Mandalorian movie is going to go into production later this year. And now we know that Rogue Squadron is back. So I hope, as somebody who likes the Star Wars films and the TV shows and stuff, I'm hoping that whatever has been going on with them is getting fixed so that we can just get good Star Wars again. Because I will be very happy if we can do that. Moving on. So a few months ago, was it October, November, something like that? I think it was November. The Scream franchise got turned completely upside down. So Melissa Barrera, who was, I thought, phenomenal. I honestly thought, and I knew she wasn't going to. I didn't just think she was good in Scream 6. I legitimately thought that in a different type of world, and in a world where like The Color Purple got delayed, or a couple of other movies got delayed, I think there was a small window that Melissa Barrera could have been considered for a Best Supporting Actress award nomination. She was not going to win. Do not get me wrong, I'm not that high up on my horse. But I thought, because Melissa Barrera, the things that she does in Scream 6 are probably some of the best acting I've ever seen in a horror movie. And that's not even me deliberately exaggerating. But, you know, as what seems to happen, she made some posts on Instagram that got her into trouble. And I'm not going to comment on those posts because, you know, right now with what is going on in the world, everyone has their very, very passionate opinions, and I'm not throwing myself into that mess. Not on an entertainment podcast. I guess if I ever wanted to do a political podcast, which is something I have considered doing a politics and news podcast, but right now we're keeping on entertainment. Anyways, what the people at Spyglass, the people that run the Scream franchise, thought that those comments that she made were so inappropriate and so hateful that they fired her immediately. Now, there's a First Amendment. I do agree that there's a First Amendment case against that. And I do agree, no matter whether I agreed or not, that she should not have been fired. She absolutely should not have been fired. But that started a chain reaction in which Jenna Ortega left the next day. Now, a lot of people thought that it was just because of... But no, what she said is absolutely true. Because remember that the Wednesday, she was supposed to be... When this all happened in November, she was supposed to be on set working on Wednesday. But because the actors' strike and all that carried on, that pushed the Beetlejuice filming, and they didn't even finish Beetlejuice till January. And now Wednesday doesn't begin until the spring. So then Jenna Ortega left. And then basically the director threw his hands up in the air and said, F y'all, I'm going home. And at that point, even I was going, this movie's not going to happen, guys. I was fully and we didn't hear anything until a couple days ago. I was fully expecting to hear at one point, and it probably was never going to be like an official press release, but I was expecting one of the producers or one of the people at Spyglass to get asked at a red carpet or at Comic-Con or something, and they're going to be like, yeah, we're not planning anything with Scream at the moment. I was just basically telling you the movie's been canceled. But a few days ago, Neve Campbell posts her Instagram. Guys, Scream 7 is back on. I'm returning as Sydney. Kevin Williamson is directing. And I tell you what, I can, as much as I'm going to miss Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. And by the way, once wounds have healed, once everything is over, they will bring Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega back in a few years. Once everything has healed and people are, they're going to bring their back. They're going to call it like Scream Legacy. And they're going to basically finish the story that they started with the Carpenter sisters. I 100% believe that. Now, that will involve both of them ladies getting a big old pay raise. But it will happen. You can't convince me that it won't. Unless in like 10 years, Melissa Barrera is still like, F them. No. But I think they will. But overall, seeing Neve Campbell back, I mean, it's nothing but a good sign. Because clearly she likes the script that they're working on. They clearly agreed to pay her what she had originally demanded, if not more, for everything that she went through on the days following her exit from Scream 6. So I still take it as a good sign. Now, did I want another Scream movie with the core four and Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, and them? Yeah, and honestly, I think all of them, including the twins, and basically everything that was specific to the Scream 5 and Scream 6 storyline, all of that's gone. I don't think any of them are coming back until Scream Legacy. But yeah, it's going to be wonderful. And so let's go ahead and move on from that. Not Shogun. Shogun's after this. So we now know, Nintendo announced on Sunday, on Mario Day, that there is in the biggest no-duh news, that there is a sequel to Super Mario Brothers in the works. Now, I'm seeing some people say that it's a sequel, some people saying it's a spinoff. I'm seeing some that they're confirming that Zelda movie, which they already announced several months ago. I don't think it's that. There's a couple of interesting things. If they're being very vague about it, there's a couple things. One, this is going to be, which I think is the best thing to do next. Yes, they can do Kirby. They can do Smash Brothers. They can do Star Fox. They can do Metroid. They can do all of those. But I think for right now, you do Super Mario Brothers 2. Because that is a guaranteed hit. You know that is coming. Because you know what you can do. You do Super Mario Brothers 2, and then as everyone is watching it, we've had 2 movies in a row we love, assuming Mario 2 is great, assuming Mario 2 is good, then you can be like, hey guys, coming next year, Pikmin. Something like that, right? So that's how I think they do it. And then, because, another thing that I listen to is people going like, well, Mario and Zelda are the only 2 you can do, because those are the only ones that the casual audiences know. And no one's going to get excited for Kirby or for... But, the counter argument is that people weren't super excited for Guardians of the Galaxy, but what did they do? They had a great marketing campaign. They stuck them into an already established franchise. And, they let people make up their own minds. And on top of it all, they made a good movie. So I think, yeah, you get a couple of good Mario movies, get this Zelda movie out, and if that's good... Then all you can do is, even if people don't know who Star Fox is, even if people don't know who Kirby is, you can do, from the producers who brought you the Super Mario Brothers movie 1 and 2 and The Legend of Zelda, because guess what? You have a track record there. So I think that's the way to do it. So, overall, and it's coming April 3rd of 2026, which... With the development time of animated movies, that absolutely surprised me. They're probably working on it now. Now, I expect, they have not said it, I expect Chris Pratt's coming back. I expect Anya Taylor-Joy is coming back. I expect Jack Black is coming back. All of them. But they have not officially announced it. So we'll have to see, possibly at Summer Games Fest, possibly at Comic-Con, which we know that Warner Brothers, that's another story. Warner Brothers will not be at Comic-Con. Or at least DC won't. Moving on. So I just, literally right before I hit record on this podcast, I just caught up to Shogun. We are now halfway through the series. I don't know if I have liked the show this much since like the prime of Game of Thrones. There is in the last episode that just happened on Tuesday, there is a moment that gave me literal Battle of the Bastards energy. This show, it's set in feudal Japan. You guys probably know it by now on Hulu. I am like I don't know how to talk about it because I don't want to spoil it because I know some of y'all are waiting for the full season to binge and some of y'all haven't started yet. I am telling you, this show is every level of brilliant and then some. And the acting, like Mariko, Anna Sawai, is wonderful. Is like, come Emmy's time in August, you are going to hear the Shogun coming up a lot because I think like all of the actors are going to get nomination. It is going to be this year's Succession because it is 100% brilliant. I think the writing is brilliant. The acting is brilliant. The brutality that they showed in this last episode. Do I kind of wish that maybe they had gotten a little bit more violent? At times I could go with a little bit more samurai action. But man, if you want the gore, this episode brings the gore. And it is just, I'm like literally wanting to be like, can you just drop the last 4 episodes now, please? Please? Because I need to see the rest of this. It has gone from I like it to oh my god. This show's perfect. This show's perfect. Like, it's when I do the full season review at the end of the month, at the end of April, expect, unless the last 4 episodes completely crap the bed, which we've seen happen, expect like a 4, 4.5, possibly even a 5. So I can't say too much about it because I don't want to spoil it for y'all, but if you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. All right, so we're going to move on to gaming. This has been a very slow week for gaming. Like, the Grandia collection got announced. I'm looking at the posts that I made. Yeah, we got a Fallout trailer, but that's more for TV again. They just have not been talking a whole lot about games. Rise of the Ronin got a few previews, which I guess it's not, which is kind of sad. It's not doing as well. But the big thing that I saw that I wanted to talk about is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Go figure, it's me. It only sold like 280,000 copies in Japan. And let me go and see what they have. I don't know if they have full. Yeah, they don't have US or but yeah, they're saying that it's about 90% less than it was for Remake. Which there's a few things that I can think of. One, we got to think about not everyone liked Remake. I did. I know a lot of people I follow did. But I've also seen a lot of negativity about Remake. Second, PS5 still does not have the install base that the PS4 had. Third, Remake, when it released, part of what made it a huge hit is it was kind of the Animal Crossing effect. It was Remake and Animal Crossing that dropped like right as everyone was locking down in 2020. So people that didn't want to raise their island and help their little animal friends wanted to play a real RPG experience with FF7 Remake. And I do think that contributed to it. And then finally, and again, I've had discussions about this. I've talked with people on Twitter about this. You cannot ignore it anymore that there are a not insignificant amount of people that still look at this as they took the original FF7, they chopped it up into pieces, and they're selling you the same game 3 times. And and literally it's just like the Battle Pass version of an RPG, which I disagree with. Like, for me, Remake was a full game. So far, I'm about halfway through. Rebirth is a full game. But I also don't blame anybody who's looking at that and they're saying, Why would I go out and spend $70 on Rebirth when in 4 years I can buy part 3 and then I could play through all of it at once? And the counter argument there is, and I've gotten into these discussions because I have a couple friends that are in that camp, and I'm like, but you're gonna get 100 hours just for the story, and they go, Persona 5 was 100 hours just for the story, and that didn't require me to buy it 3 times. So I don't agree with it, but it is hard to ignore that that's the case, that there are people that are doing that. Again, there's no single crazy reason why it's not selling very well. And honestly, like, it's one of those things that the first week, everyone I know was talking about it, and then everyone kind of stopped talking about it, except for like the hardcore Final Fantasy fans. So I do think that that is one of the reasons. It's just, and it's disappointing because so far it is a great game. Do I have problems with it? Yes. And we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. Is it a good game? Yeah, I'll say it was a good game. I don't know at this point if I could call it a great game, but it is good. I really like it. I do have problems with it. But yeah, it's not picking up, and I don't know. We'll have to see. Now, once it goes on sale, once things get going, once we get a couple of good sales, once the PC version comes out inevitably, and all of that, we'll see if the sales pick up. But as of right now, it's really interesting that this game is just not selling super well. Okay, moving on. So what am I up to? I have been working on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth most of this week. I had plans to go to see Kung Fu Panda 4, and unfortunately those fell through because I was just I did not want to cough through the whole movie and gag. I am going to see it on Sunday, though. I am seeing Kung Fu Panda, and I'm going to try to, cautiously trying. I may not succeed, and I probably won't succeed. I'll let you guys know on Tuesday. I'm thinking about trying to double feature Kung Fu Panda and Imaginary. If not, I'm probably going to try to hit up Imaginary on Wednesday, because I have been very excited. Despite all the negative things I'm hearing, I have been interested in seeing it. But mostly working on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, I am roughly at the halfway point. I'm inside the gold saucer right now. And I have some issues. Now, when this game is good, it is like, I'm so happy about it. It is tear-inducing. However, there are moments of this game that make me go, that was an interesting creative decision on the developers. That was, and obviously, and none of it's the narrative stuff. Like, you could talk about some of the narrative choices they make, and there's a few I'm like, I can understand why some people don't like that. And the way it's telling its story, spoiler alert, there's some very non-linear elements to the storytelling of this that I think threw me off a few times. Once I kind of understood what they were doing, I was like, okay. For me, now, one of the complaints about Remake, which I thought was a valid complaint, was all the side quests were the same. Go talk to person A, who sends you to talk to person B, who sends you to talk to person C, who sends you to talk to person D, who sends you to kill some monsters, return, turn in quest. And I understand those complaints. I really do. But there's also, I feel like in Rebirth, with the side quests and the side material, and I understand, because last time I said something like this, I got flooded with the deluge of, don't like it, then don't do it, and just do the story. I understand that, but as me for a completionist, and me who likes doing it, and that's on me, I fully take that. But for me and my enjoyment, I felt like Square Enix, they swung it too far the other way, to where every single side quest is a go talk to person A to go talk to person B. Oh, and now you gotta play a minigame. And now you gotta go play another minigame. And now you gotta go play Queen's Blood. Like, and I swear at this point, I've spent, now granted, I said I'm in the gold saucer, which is all minigames, which is where the minigames belong. But I swear I have spent almost as much time on minigames as I have story. Like, it is just, it drives, it's like to the point where I even went, and I posted this on my Twitter, I was like, I'm about mini gamed out, guys. I really am. And strangely enough, because and I don't blame the developers for this, I blame myself. I am the type that I sit back and I go, okay, we're going to do this until we get rank 3, and I see that little yellow complete. But there's so many. It's like every time I get to a new town, it's like 4 new mini games available. I'm like, oh. And I've kind of, if I get too burnt out on them, which I just might, I am thinking about picking up the pace and just like doing the rank 1 and plowing through the rest of the story, and then I can backtrack afterward. But overall, it's still fun. I still enjoy it. Like, as of right now, I'm not planning to put it up. I'm not bailing on it. But I'm not going to lie, like, the fact that it swung so far the other way, and it's all the side content is all mini games, it's reducing my excitement for the game a little bit. It's reducing my interest. And part of, again, on me, my expectations were super high. If you've been listening to the podcast before the game came out, I was like ready to start declaring this a top 10 game of all time. And that's on me that I made it too high. Still, too many minigames. And I know some people laugh about that. I know some people have their own issues when others say that. But yeah, it's a lot. And then I made a little bit of progress on Persona. So what's coming up next week? Not a whole lot. I was going to get Rise of the Ronin, but I'm probably not going to. And so I'll probably read some of the reviews. And then if it gets like overwhelmingly great reviews, I'll probably just wait for a sale, because I've gotten cheap. I've gotten very cheap when games are $70. And so if it's not like a most anticipated game of the year, I'm not going to pay full price for it. But if it gets a lot of good praise, and if I finish Rebirth and actually have a little bit of free time, I'll consider it, because what I saw looked good. I did make a little bit of progress on Persona 3 Reload, which I've already said everything I have to say. Once I finish it, I will probably do like a full review. This reminds me. Sorry, I'm all over the place. So one of the things I decided on is with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, when I finish the story, which is probably still going to be another 2 to 3 weeks in full, I'm going to do a bonus episode. We are going to do a full spoiler talk about it. So once I get closer and I say, hey guys, next week I'm going to do that, I will open up my thing and say, hey, DM me on Twitter, or send me an email with your questions or comments about FF7 Remake, and we're going to have like an open spoiler discussion. Because I think I'm going to have conversations and thoughts. When I get closer, I will let you guys know that. Other than that, next week, Ghostbusters. I am going to see Ghostbusters at some point. I'm really crossing my fingers and hoping that my schedule allows me to see it like one of the first screenings on Thursday. But I have not, unfortunately, because of just the way things work out for me, I've not been able to commit to that. So I'm going to try, but we'll see. And with that done, my voice is feeling shot, guys. Sorry about that. That will do it. Thank you all so much if you made it this far into the podcast. I enjoy doing this. I am glad that you're all here listening and supporting me in podcasts and content creation. If you want more news and information, we are posting every single day now on everythingentertainment.network. You can follow me on Twitter at Chad_Shreves. You can follow me on Instagram at Everything Entertainment Network. And, you can follow this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. So thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you all on Tuesday. So we did Mondays. Tuesdays is going to be the new podcast days, just because it works better on my schedule. Again, thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your week.